SKTV.
Howdy folks, welcome back to Super Koopa TV. Today, I wanted to talk about a content creator's responsibility. And this has come about because in 2023, there have been a lot of content creators that have come out of the woodwork as untrustworthy, as scummy, taking advantage of their audiences. And this is nothing new. This has been happening for several years, both a combination of content creators and, I hate the term, influencers. Ugh, just saying it just makes my skin crawl. But there's been a lot of content creators that have built up trust over the years. They've made great content. Then it comes out they're screwing over their audience. They're being disingenuous, or that they're just terrible people that manage to keep it hidden. And so I wanted to talk about a content creator's responsibility, what I would perceive as a content creator's responsibility, what my responsibility is as a content creator. First and foremost, I don't do this for money. And you can do this for money if you want to. I mean, if that's your goal and you're going to have to work hard at it, I would never suggest content creation for a living. Because even doing it for a hobby can be time-consuming, taxing, tiring. You're your own worst critic. So doing it for a living is a lot of pressure. And I don't think that you would enjoy it if you're looking to get into it because you think it's easy money. It's not easy money. A lot of editing involved. You have to keep up with appearances. You have to be able to keep the audience that you build. And that's not easy to do on a platform like YouTube or TikTok or wherever. So I would say don't get into it for money. But you also have a responsibility, and I have a responsibility, to be as transparent as possible, to be as honest as possible, to be as straightforward as possible, and to just be yourself. You know, people aren't going to know you based on your content. They're just going to know a lot of what you like. You know? Like with regular celebrities, you can see parasocial relationships start to form. And that happens with YouTubers and other content creators, video content creators, influencers, whatever under that banner you want to call people that make content on the regular. Parasocial relationships can form with complete strangers. And that is dangerous for a myriad of reasons. So you want to be careful of that. You want to be... First of all, you don't want to take advantage of people, but you also don't want to be taken advantage of, and that can happen very easily. Just on regular social media that can happen, let alone content creation. Social media is a minefield. It's gotten, in some ways, despite the horrific climate, I would argue in some ways it's gotten better with more modern tools, but, I mean, back in the 2010s, oh boy. Boy, was it a mess. Was Twitter ever a mess? People forget just how bad Twitter used to be. People are like, I miss the good old days of Twitter. There were no good old days of Twitter. What are people talking about? I was on Twitter in the early days. It sucked. There was the character limit. There was a bunch of people pretending to be people who they weren't. It was a sucky experience. Yeah, I made some lasting friends from there and connections, but, I mean, there's a reason I'm not on there anymore. I'm on Getter, which people barely use. It's a lot quieter, and I don't have to be on there 24/7, whereas I felt the need to be on Twitter, you know, almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because of the different things I was engaging in. I was in a Christian gaming group. I was here, I was there, I was everywhere. It was really a lot. It was really the only place I had significant, constant social interaction, and it wasn't good. For the most part, it wasn't good. There were a lot of bridges burned thanks to Twitter. I will never return to Twitter. I don't care what Elon Musk does. I'll never return to Twitter. And I won't go over to Threads either. It's just Twitter 2.0. And there really can never be something like old Twitter. But regardless, as a content creator, if I'm going to create content, my responsibility is to my audience, first and foremost. You have to respect your audience. You have to respect what your audience likes, what they dislike. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to bend over backwards for them. You know, they're coming to you, and they're choosing whether or not they like what you do or they hate what you do. But they're the one coming to you. And if they like what you do, then you want to keep up with that, but at the same time, you also want to be honest and transparent about when you don't like something or when something isn't working, or you just got to be honest. You got to be straightforward and not insult your audience. This is something that Hollywood has completely forgotten. They don't know how to not insult their audience at this point. You know, they have so much content that comes across as ideological propaganda one way or another. And it drives people away. Whereas back in the day, occasionally they would deal with certain ideological messages, but it wouldn't dominate that industry. And content creators is the same way. A lot of content creators start out ideologically and politically neutral, and then they shift to wherever the wind is blowing and whatever will get them the most attention. So they end up being disingenuous with their audience. People go, what happened to the old insert content creator here? They go, well, I've grown and I've changed. They make that excuse. I've grown, I've changed, and blah, 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 and I'm a better person now. It's like, no, you're actually more scummy because you're not being honest with your audience about who you are. You know, people don't really change like that. Yeah, people can change certain points of view, but people don't have a sudden mass awakening towards a political point of view organically. Not the way that people have been. A lot of those people are not being honest about what their actual opinions are, because if they were, they'd get canceled. You know? A lot of people, if people once made edgy content and then they flip over to, well, I'm not going to do that anymore because I'm more respectful of others. Don't buy into that. And several content creators have done that. I know there's some more prominent ones that have happened this year. But don't buy that. If they created edgy and sort of darker humor content and they were literally making fun of everybody and that's what drew people to them, and then they suddenly changed, don't buy it. It's not authentic. I can absolutely tell you in all honesty that it's not based on something that is genuine and truthful. It is based on going where they feel the wind is blowing at the end of the day. So don't trust that. Some people do have an authentic change. Like some people have authentic come to Christ moments. Some people become Christians or they become whatever and they authentically change and they talk about that. But there are others who are just going where the wind is blowing and they're disavowing the audiences that they've built. The audiences who they have a responsibility to as a content creator. And that's my point is, I have a responsibility to you all. I do. Whatever I choose to make, I have a responsibility to, number one, stay as consistent with my views as possible. Number two, not to lie to you. And number three, not to manipulate you. The manipulation of audiences just makes me sick. All these different monetization schemes with sponsorships that are shady and promoting shady goods and just every type of grift under the sun, every type of scamming under the sun is just awful. With all the cryptocurrency, there were like 1 billion crypto scams and people promoting some of their own products, but their products end up being garbage and just taking advantage of audiences' money and trust. It's disgusting. Like, I don't make or sell products, but if I did, I would be beside myself making sure that these products are up to the best standards that I could give to people. And that's not an easy thing to do because you can work with people who want you to cut corners in order to save your own money. I would rather go bankrupt trying to make something of quality than trying to cut corners and give people a crappy product. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just being old-fashioned, but that's been my attitude for most of my life, is just being honest and straightforward. I'm not trying to, I am under no circumstances trying to brag about myself in that. I'm just saying that's been my attitude. Whether anybody else thinks that that's right or wrong, that's just how I was raised. That's my thought process. But it's just odd to me that that's no longer the standard for many of these content creators that are triple my size. They don't have to be honest with you. They don't have to be straightforward with you. They can be shady as all get out and take advantage of you. And that sucks. That really sucks. And so I think content creators have to be way more responsible than they have been with their audience. They have to build a environment where their audience can trust them and that trust is not misplaced, especially when dealing with money. How many things just this year alone have come about content creators defrauding their audiences and taking their money and not putting it where they say it's going to go? How many have there been this year alone? I don't know, but I've seen several. And it disgusts me every time, but then I roll my eyes and I go, well, I'm not surprised. They don't see themselves as responsible with their audiences. They just see their audiences as suckers without telling them. And it as somebody who's privileged enough to be able to do this even for a hobby with what little, very little resources I have, and I do mean very little resources. I'm running on what is now an older PC, the first PC I ever built. It's going to be hard for me to get a new one. It's going to take some time, so I might have to take a break from content creation until I do. It's a privilege to be able to do this just for fun and just to kind of build a fun audience. But so many large content creators manipulate their audiences, take advantage of their audiences. And then what's worse is because of the parasocial obsession that people have with content creators, when the content creators are exposed as scumbags or as terrible people in general, they start to defend them because they can't break away from the reality of the situation, which is that the person they looked up to is not the person who they thought they were. And it's unfortunate, but I think that comes with the territory of A, doing content creation for a living, and B, getting fame. I've had videos that have blown up out of nowhere, and it always feels uncomfortable. It always does, because you're not expecting that level of attention, right? If you're a small content creator, you don't expect thousands of people to show up at your doorstep. It just doesn't happen. And I'm not talking about my literal doorstep. I'm talking about my channel. And leaving all sorts of comments. There's really good comments, and then there's comments about 6 different ways that you're an idiot for what you've said. You know, you don't expect that level of attention, but that's just the nature of what you do. Eventually you do something that gets enough people's attention, and there it is. But I'm not seeking that out. I'm just seeking out just making what I want to make and trying to be as humble as I can about it. Trying to put forward something that people enjoy. And I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. More than I ever expected, by the way. And I'm very grateful for that. I'm incredibly grateful for that. There's not enough words to express that gratitude. Because I don't ask for money. I don't ask for attention. I don't even ask people to subscribe. I hate asking people to subscribe. Because that's something that I, as a content creator, have to earn. That is something every content creator has to earn, even though it's free. For people to be interested enough to want weekly or daily or however many times you upload videos and to stay in the loop and be connected with your channel, that is a privilege. That is them saying, I like you well enough to see where you're going. Even if I don't like all your videos, I still want to be a part of what you're doing here. And that is a privilege. And so many people have taken advantage of that. They really, truly have. They really, truly have. And it's going to be hard as I make the transition for 24 over to Rumble. And I know a lot of people aren't going to go over there because they've got their own thoughts and feelings on the platform, but I really don't want to be on YouTube in 24 because everything is going to reach a fever pitch in 2024, and I'm trying to sort of hunker down and be in sort of a better place where, you know, I'm not getting caught up at what I think is going to be the pinnacle of the culture war due to the 24 election and everything else. It's just going to reach a boiling point, guys, and I don't want to be... That's one of the reasons why I'm moving over there for 24, and then I'll have to reevaluate at the end of 24. Should the world not end the way that things are going, I'm going to reevaluate at the end of the year, should everything go okay, and say, well, do I want to start uploading to YouTube again? But I am devoted to uploading content just exclusively there for 2024 because, you know, I love my YouTube audience, but you guys have to understand, I'm getting really stuffy down here. This tends to happen when I record too long. You have to understand, I don't want to burn myself out with all the stuff that I see on YouTube, because I do. Because part of content creation is being on the platform and seeing what's going on and seeing if there's anything worth talking about that other people are talking about. And I don't want to burn myself out that way. So I want to limit my limit my 2024 YouTube usage to mostly my Railfan stuff or just simple gaming stuff. I don't want to deal with any culture war stuff, any political stuff, because it's going to be the worst it's been. It's going to be the absolute worst it's been. 2024 is looking to be a nightmare, a massive storm, just culturally, ideologically. I don't know anybody who's looking forward to it. I'm certainly not. I'm not even really going to celebrate New Year's. I'm just going to say thank you, Lord, for another year of life. Please keep me alive for this one. Hopefully the world doesn't end sooner rather than later. But I don't know. And so I got to take a step back. And, you know, I owe it to you guys to at least at the end of December, in January, make a goodbye video and tell people where they can find stuff over there. But I know people aren't going to follow me, and some people aren't going to follow me over there, and that's fine. And I'm still thankful that you followed for the short time here. I really am. But even while I'm over there, my responsibilities don't change just because I've changed platforms. I'm still going to be the same type of content creator, making the same type of content. That site's getting better, by the way. It's getting playlists by next year, and it's improving. It's improving on a regular basis. I really love it. That's why I'm going to make it my home for 24. Because there's freedom there, and it's just... I feel like it's better. I feel like they treat their creators way better than YouTube does. I think YouTube just doesn't value its creators anymore. And I think that that's led to a lot of content creators becoming shifty because YouTube just screws them over, and so they feel like, well, I can screw over my audience. I don't have that attitude. I think that attitude's terrible. But I have a responsibility to be good to you all. I do. I have a great responsibility to be as good as I can be to you all. And this is coming from somebody who isn't even big. I don't even know how many subscribers I have. That's how little I pay attention to the metrics, because if you start paying attention to the metrics, and I learned this when I first started, you start to make everything about the numbers. You start to get obsessed with, what can I do to get more viewers? What can I do to get more attention? Don't pay attention to that. Odds are you're not going to be the next big thing, and I don't want to be the next big thing. So I don't pay attention to the metrics. You know, I barely pay attention to comments. There's a lot of comments that I see. And by the way, for those wondering about comments being deleted, I don't actively delete comments, but I do have YouTube system on that filters comments. So some will be deleted if YouTube deems them inappropriate. And I do that strictly for safety reasons, and because I don't want to spend my time as a content creator arguing against people who are just being trolls and being weird and combative. So I'm not going out of my way to delete stuff, but if YouTube determines that something is wrong, then that's what happened. And I apologize for that if it wasn't, and just post it again under a different format. But at the end of the day, I do have a responsibility to my audience to not screw them over, to not take advantage of them, to not, you know, mislead them. And I remember in the early days of YouTube how you had a lot of these big names on the rise, and then you had channels that were constantly calling them out. And they would call them out, and they would call them out, and they would call them out. And at first you're going, well, who are these people? These people just jealous of their success? But as it turns out, over the years, they were right. Because they were noticing that these people weren't being responsible with their audiences. There were entire channels built to call out big-name YouTubers because they saw through their grift. They saw through their manipulation. And I always loved watching those channels because you would see people hating them in the comments, but as time went on, more and more controversies popped up with the people who they were talking about, and it turned out they were right from the very beginning. You know, people can see through a ruse who've been around the block more than once. They don't need to be on YouTube to see it. They just deal with other people. And that's what I want to warn you all is if you want to get into content creation or you're looking to build up channels that are worth watching, there are people who don't believe that they have to be responsible with your viewership. They see you as somebody to be manipulated. So you need to be aware of that, okay? People who want to collaborate with you, people who, you know, people who you watch on a, like say you watch a weekly live stream, regardless of who it is, they don't have to be responsible with you. Only a handful of content creators actually take their responsibility to the viewer seriously. Only a handful, not as many as there should be. And a lot of the bigger ones, they end up really, they don't end up doing that. I think PewDiePie got off pretty scot-free. Yeah, he had controversies, but he didn't hate his audience. He didn't try to rob his audience. He finally got to the point where he was like, well, you know what, I just want to do my own thing and just be done with this and just have a family, settle down, and not have to worry about it. And good for him. And same with the big content creators that sort of get away with a good reputation at the end of the day, despite what they weather. Good for them. I'm not here to say whether or not he specifically was a good or bad person, because I know what his controversies were, but, I mean, at the end of the day, he left with an audience that respected him. I remember when he shifted his content, because he used to be one of the most hated content creators, because he was not only the biggest, but he was the most annoying. When he became likable, when he started expressing honest opinions and being transparent, he started gaining even my attention. And that's what you want to do. You just want to be authentic. You know, just give up the gimmicks. I mean, yeah, the gimmicks draw people, but what keeps people is when you're authentic. That's why I try not to make my channel about gimmicks. I've done some videos with some gimmicky editing, like my Toon Disney video. That was some of the most editing I've done. But not my Toon Disney video. What am I talking about? My old Disney Channel video. Or one of the Disney Channel videos that I did. I did a lot of editing. The most recent one before this video. I try not to do that too much because I think people get annoyed with it. And I know some people like highly edited videos, which is why I was experimenting with it. But it wasn't to try to get people to watch it. It was just me seeing what I could do because I genuinely don't do a lot of editing. That was the reason that I chose to do that. So at the end of the day, don't be about gimmicks. Don't take advantage of people. Just be a good person. Somebody was saying in some comment section I was in for something, why is it so hard for content creators to be good people? I think I'll end with that question because I don't have the answer. I know it's what I strive to do and what several others strive to do, but why is it that so many major ones end up being just horrible people despite presenting themselves as nice? Like, what do you all think is the cause for this? Because 2023 has been a rough year in terms of that. It's been a really rough year, so we'll see what the future brings. That's all I've got for now. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a respectful comment down below. Thank you very much. This has been Super Koopa TV. God bless. Have a good one. Peace.